G'day everybody, Nick Dingle here again with another Unity 3D tutorial. This time we are making a side-scrolling 2D game, and I'm going to be focusing on just working with sprites, creating prefabs, doing some very basic scripting, and then creating a number of levels based on the content that we make. Now, here is a bit of a sneak preview to what all the things that we're going to make are. We have a tiny little spaceship here. We can move around using the arrow keys, and it scrolls along for us as the name of the video suggests. And you have obstacles that you have to dodge. The first one that we're going to create are just these basic walls, okay, because they're not too hard to create, and they're very easy to create complex little mazes that you have to get through. The second one that we're going to create are the little birds that you see here, because I'm so original. I didn't make these graphics, by the way. I'm going to credit it down the bottom of the video, but you can see we can do lots of different things with those guys, and when you die, you're dead. You just have to restart once that happens. Anyway, so it's a simple game. It shouldn't take us too long to make. So let's get cracking straight away. Make a new project in Unity. I'm going to call it Side Scroller, if I can spell. Make it 2D. I'm going to save it on the desktop so I can move it later on. Hit Create Project, and we're ready to go. Before we do anything with the project, however, the first link in the description of this video is actually some assets that you're going to need to make this project if you want to. You can use something else if you prefer, but I'm going to give you the side scroller sprites. As I said, I didn't make these pictures, but it's the bird and the spaceship. Because they're in a zip file, I first of all need to get them out. So I'm going to highlight both of these guys. I'm going to drag it onto the Unity folder here, and here's my two pictures. Now, before I drag these into my Unity project as I normally would, I'm going to create some folders inside my Unity project to organize them, because later on they're going to make a lot of files. So I'm going to hit Create. We're going to go Folder. First one we're going to create is called Sprites, and inside Sprites we're going to create two more folders. The first one is called Bird, fairly straightforward. Just make sure before you make the second folder you click off of Bird, otherwise it creates it inside of the folder Bird. I want to make it alongside. Next one is called Spaceship, and simple as that. Going back to my Unity folder, I'm going to drag these two pictures into the proper folder. So Bird goes in there, Spaceship goes in there. Okay, and you can see we've got the right things ready to go. So let's start off with the spaceship, because he's probably the most important. But before we drag him into our level, we need to set him up so Unity recognizes that these two pictures here are not just one big sprite, but actually two frames of the same sprite. It may not look like these are much different, but the flame on the back of the spaceship actually shrinks. So there's a little bit of a sort of pulsing effect when it gets to the flame. So when we click on the spaceship, here's some settings we need to make sure. First of all, make sure that texture type says sprite. Second thing is the sprite mode we change to multiple. And I'm going to hit apply. And we're going to go to the sprite editor so we can cut it up into its two pictures. Now, it's pretty easy to do this. We just hit the slice button at the top. And I don't want automatically, I want grid by cell count. And we're going to go the column and row settings. And I'm going to put 2 for columns. That just indicates we've got 2 columns, 1 row. Hit the slice button. You probably didn't see much, but it created a little white line there. And it's actually put boxes around both of those. Hit the X here, hit apply. And now we have 2 pictures. As you can see, there's a little pulse down there, which are our spaceship's animation. To get this into our game, don't drag the individual ones in. You've got to drag the whole thing in now. And when we let go, this is the reason why we made folders for each of the sprites. Straight away asks you to create something. Now, if this is the first time you're working with sprites, it might be fairly confusing what's going on here. But because we told Unity that there's multiple frames in our sprite, it wants to create an animation. And that's what it's doing right here. Create new animation. So what is this animation? This is my flying animation. So I'm going to call it Spaceship Flying Spaceship. Don't just call it flying, because when we do the bird, we're going to have to give it a unique name as well. So I'm going to hit save, and it creates these files over here. This is the animation right here, Spaceship Flying. This one here is an animation controller. Now, if you were using multiple animations such as running, walking, jumping, things like that, you have to use the animation controller to switch between those. But we've only got one animation, so in this video we don't have to worry about using the animation controller. Anyway, with that done, just by dragging him in, if I hit play, the animation's working straight away. So if you want to make a sprite with a little animation and it just sits in the background, that's all you need to do. We need to do a little bit more work on this guy though. So click on him and we're going to change some settings over here. The first setting I'm going to change is spaceship 0. I don't want spaceship 0, I want spaceship. Okay. As we go down, I don't want to change any of these settings. I want to add some components to it. The first one is we need to give this guy physics. So we need to add a rigid body, and you need to make sure it's the 2D version. Okay. And if I play right now, you're going to see this has created an issue. Because now he falls. Now he's got gravity. Okay. So the reason I added the rigid body is not for adding gravity. It's for adding collisions to this guy. So when he hits other objects, if there's no rigid body, no collisions occur. So you need to make sure some object has a rigid body. So what I'm going to do is to get rid of gravity, just set the gravity scale to 0. And that's it. Job's done there. The second thing we need to do is tell Unity what kind of shape, physical shape this object has. Now, don't add this one. We're going to add a different one, but I'm going to show you the one that you'd usually add is going to be like a box collider. Okay, there are different ones, but box collider is the simplest. And you can see the little green outline got added around my object. That's the box collider, and that is now the shape that the physics engine of Unity thinks my spaceship is. Now you can see a big problem because it thinks these gaps here, here, and around here are part of the ship. Well, we're not going to do that. So let's get rid of the box collider, and we're going to add a different one. We're going to add the polygon collider, and it creates a lot more detail in our physics shape. Okay, it tries to match the visual. Now you can see it's probably a little bit too complicated, especially the flame at the back has collision as well. But to be completely honest with you, it's such a simple project. We're not going to go into detail of removing the physics on the flame. Let's just leave it as is. But just know that we've now got physics on our ship, and it's now ignoring all these blank parts around the ship. Okay, so the ship's done. So let's move on to the bird and do pretty much the exact same thing. We're just not adding a rigid body to him. So bird, okay. Make sure it's set to multiple, hit apply, sprite editor. He's got 4 pictures, so when we slice, we're going to go cell count, 4, hit that, and you can see it's created those white lines. Apply, drag him in, he's huge, call him bird flying. Alright, then I'm going to change it from bird 0, just a bird, and I'm going to add just a box collider to this guy. Now you can probably tell there's a bit of a blank spot at the bottom of this guy, so just to make it a little bit more fair, I reckon we change the collision slightly. And the way we do that, over here we're going to change the offset Y and the size Y. So if I just click on the Y and drag it to the left, you see it shrinks it down a bit. Now I'll click on the Y and the offset and move it up a bit. Make that a little bit bigger. And there we go. Okay, it just makes it a little bit more fair on the player, I think, in the long run. Okay, with that said and done, the only thing I want to do now is flip the bird around, and it's simple as just ticking this box here, and he's looking the other way. All right, let us create the 2 last things that we need. We need the wall, okay, and then we need the big red goal at the very end of the level that you're aiming to get to. Now, I don't give you these sprites because I just want you to make them for yourself. It's quite easy, and we're going to make them in Paint. So before we do that, let's go to our sprites folder, create a brand new one. Call it environment and can't type today. All right, and this is where we're going to make our new pictures. So if you open up MS Paint, like so, okay, I'm just going to make sure the resize is set to 50 by 50 pixels. If you don't have that, just untick this box, type it in, hit OK. The first one, the wall, is just going to be a grey colour. So I'm going to grab this colour here, paint bucket, fill them in. Okay, save. Now you need to make sure that you save inside this exact folder. So if you don't know how to get there, I save my project to the desktop, to the side scroller, assets, sprites, environment, call him wall. And that's the first one done. Create the goal. I'm just going to make a new picture. So file, new. Grab the red color, fill them in, save, still set to the environment folder, so call it goal, hit OK, or save that is, and when we go back to Unity, you'll see it's already picked up those 2 sprites. Now we can just drag those guys straight in as soon as you want to. Now what I want to do, I'm going to set the goal up. We're going to add a box collider to him. All right, you'll see that it didn't ask us to make an animation. We don't have to rename goal, and that's because Unity knows it's just got a single frame. We haven't got multiple frames inside of it. That's why it didn't ask. Now, really, I should be adding a box collider to the gray guy as well, but I'm not going to for the moment, just to show you something in the next step. So they're all our sprites. We're pretty much ready to go. Let's resize them. And to do so, I'm going to hold the shift key, use the corner anchors. Go to about yay big for the ship. Okay, about the same size for the bird. Okay, and now we're ready to go to the next step. The next step is to create prefabs. Because we're going to be using these guys again and again throughout different levels, I want to have preset made sprites that we can just drag into the level and that just work straight away. So the way we do that, go to the assets folder down the bottom, create a new folder called prefabs, open it up, and then we just drag our objects onto the folder down here. Spaceship, bird, goal, and wall. And you can see they've gone blue. That just indicates that they're based on prefabs. And that's it. The reason you use prefabs is because then you can just start dragging in as many as you want and just using them, and they all behave the exact same way. The other really good benefit of using prefabs is you can see that I forgot to put a box collider, or I didn't forget. I told you I wasn't going to. But when I want to add something to every single object, if I have 500 of these objects in my level, I don't want to have to sit there and add it to each one. Click on the prefab down here, add that component, and you'll see it adds it to every single one in every single scene. Okay, that is the massive benefit of using prefabs. Now, with that said and done, it's probably time we actually add some code to some things. So I'm going to clean this level up. Let's get rid of these walls. Get rid of the bird because the first level's not going to have him. Move this guy out of the way. And move him down here. I'm going to resize him. And we're going to start working on our ship. Okay. When you're ready, okay, join me and we're going to make a brand new folder down in assets called scripts. Okay. We're going to do some very simple scripting, and I'm going to do you step by step just to explain what's going on here. So let's go into the folder. I'm going to right click, create C# script, because that's the one I work in mostly. And the first one's going to be called spaceship. Okay, double click to open it up. Now I use Visual Studio because that's the one I use all my programming in. If you don't have Visual Studio and you just use the built-in mono-develop, chances are things aren't going to be different. It's going to look a bit different, but the code should be the exact same. Now, your code should look like this to start with. If there's any differences, such as maybe the class name is a bit different, please make sure that this class name here matches the file name. Otherwise, we're going to get errors all the way through making your game. So with that said and done, I'm going to go back to Unity first and I drag this script onto my spaceship. Two things I'm going to do. I'm going to hit apply up here, and that's going to apply any changes I just made, such as adding the script to the original prefab. I'm going to scroll down and just confirm that the script is actually on the spaceship. Okay. With that said and done, now any code we add to the script is automatically going to execute on our ship as we play the game. So if you've never done scripting before, let me take you through the very basics of what's going on here. You have two things where you can add code: void start and void update. Each one of these has a code block on the end. Now, a code block is just anything inside these squiggly braces. Okay, that's the start of the code block. That's the end of the code block. Okay, that bit and that bit. Simple as that. Now you can see there's another code block here and here. Okay, it's a code block for the whole spaceship script. Okay, so you don't ever have to touch anything about that. Now, if you add code inside void start, that executes once at the beginning of the game and never again. Okay, there are exceptions to that rule, but that's just the basics of it. And then if you add code in void update, you can see it's called once per frame. And that means if your game runs at 60 frames a second, this code here is going to be executed 60 times per second. All right, so it happens as quickly as possible, as much as possible. Okay, I probably shouldn't be clicking my finger into the mic, but oh well. Anyway, so what we want to do in this script here is have our ship move along slowly. Okay, what do we have to do to get it moving? Well, really, we have to change its position in the world. And the position we want to move is the X value. See, if I increase the X value, it moves along our level. The higher it gets, the further our ship has moved along. So there are only really two coordinates we have to worry about in this game: X and Y because Y is up and down. Z does absolutely nothing in a 2D game. Well, it does sort of, but I'm not going to go into exactly what it does. It's pretty useless for this game anyway. So with that said and done, let's move our ship. It's a very simple command to move it. Transform with a little t, dot translate with a large T, and in brackets we give it 3 numbers. And the numbers indicate how much the X moves, the Y moves, and the Z moves. So if I put 0, 0, 0, and then put a semicolon at the end, don't ever forget that semicolon. That is the biggest issue when people start programming. This indicates I move nothing on the X, nothing on the Y, and nothing on the Z. So we want to move something on the X. So put a number. Make sure you save before you go back to Unity. And to know how you've saved, there generally is little asterisks there to indicate there's unsaved changes. When you hit the save button, that goes away. Now I'm going to Alt-Tab back to Unity. Okay, give it a sec to load those changes. And if I hit play, now you can see it's flying along pretty darn quickly. So let's use a much smaller number. Because I'm going to use a 0.2, it's actually going to give me an error. And that's because it doesn't really know what value I'm using here. So what I'm going to do is put a letter F on the end to tell Unity exactly what value I'm using. And I put Fs on the end of all of them because it's just good practice at this point to start using it. Just know it's still a number. Just put a letter F on the end. Going back, hit play now. It's not too bad. Now, you can see the collisions are sort of working. Okay, they're not quite working. If I run it again. I love that. Okay, because we're telling the plane to keep moving, the collisions are just going to keep trying to work, but they don't quite work because we're just still moving straight ahead. So the first problem here really is I want to be able to change the speed. I still think it's going a bit too fast. I reckon 0.1 is probably even a little bit too fast if I play it. It's really annoying having to go back to the script, change the value, and then go back to Unity, and then update and see the changes and things like that. So what I'm going to do is add something to my script up here that allows me to change it within Unity itself. So just add a couple of empty lines, like so, and type this, public float speed equals 0.1f with a semicolon at the end. And what I've just done there is created what's called a variable. Now, the float indicates that it's a fractional number. Speed is the name of my variable. It's just called speed. And then I'm putting equals 0.1f, and I'm just saying the speed is 0.1. Okay, and the reason we do something like this, the first reason really, is so we can make numbers like that a little bit more meaningful, because it's much nicer to look at something that says speed than 0.1f. Okay, now because I put public on the front, when I go back to Unity, I can actually see what speed is. Okay, whoop, I've got to stop the game first. Click on spaceship, and down the bottom you can see speed 0.1. So that actually exposes the speed to the Unity editor and allows us to change the number whenever we want. So I can type 0.05 and you'll see it slows down a little bit further. That's roughly the speed I want actually. But there's one more problem. Oop, I didn't mean to hit that save button. And the problem is that while I can change the number now in the Unity editor, if I ever export this game and give it to my friend, if they've got a much less powerful computer or a much more powerful computer, this code executes at a different speed. Because it's running at a certain frame rate, more powerful computers have more frames, less powerful computers or even phones have a lot less frames. So we have to add one more thing to make it run consistently no matter what device it's running on. Okay, down here next to speed, I'm going to type this in. Asterisk or times, time with a capital T dot delta time. Okay, and this number here, okay, tells you how long it took for the last frame to render and come to the next frame. Well, sorry. Okay, how long has it been since the last time we executed the code? That's pretty much what it means. If it took longer, that's going to be a bigger number. And if it's really, really quick, it's going to be a nice and small number. So timesing by this number will keep it consistent no matter what computer we're on, or phone for that matter as well. And you might also notice that if I play it now, it's really slow. So I'm going to change the speed back to 2 that it originally was. You should see it's pretty good. Now I reckon we should fix this collision stuff here because it's just a bit weird. Stop doing that. Okay, so to do collision work, we actually have to add our own little void. So outside of void update, I'm just going to add some new lines down here. I'm going to type in void, capital O for on, capital C for collision, and I'm going to double click on collision enter 2D. Okay, and this is another little event, I suppose you can call it, when our spaceship collides with something, with a 2D collider. So it could be a box collider, circle collider, or another polygon collider for that matter. What do we want to do when we collide with another object such as the wall? Well, we want to destroy the spaceship because you lost. Okay, really we want to destroy the spaceship, create an explosion, maybe have a game over screen, but just to start with, destroy the ship, done. Capital D for destroy, and in brackets a little g for game and a capital O for object. Okay, so you want to spelt it wrong, but I'm going to double click on this anyway. And then put a semicolon on the end. Make sure that's not a capital G because it won't work if it is. Okay, with that code done, save and go back to Unity. Come on. It's as simple as that. As soon as we touch any other object with a collider, you see that it shuts or destroys the ship. And we basically have to restart the game to get it working again. Now we need to be able to dodge these objects. So we have to add controls. And these controls are going to be put inside the void update. So I'm going to make some new lines under our transform.translate. And the controls are basically the same thing. They're going to be transform translates, but I'm just going to change the coordinate. So if I want to go up, instead of using 0 for the y value, I'm just going to use a number for the y value. Simple as that. But you don't want to move it up all the time. Okay, you only want to do it when they press the up key on the keyboard. So let's add an if statement. Okay, so if I type if with little letters, open up brackets, and I want to check if input.getKey in brackets, in quotes, up. What I've just said there, if we've got the key up, basically, then the next line of code is going to be executed only if I'm pressing the up key. So the line of code is actually the exact same thing that I've written here, transform.translate. But instead of the x getting a value, I give it a 0 for x. Then I use our speed times time.delta time on the y value, and then 0 on the z. So now if I go back to Unity and press the up key on the keyboard, it should move my ship up. Now I'll have to move that back because that is way too close. But you can see it worked anyway. So to add our other keys in, the down, left, and right, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy and paste these lines. Bang, bang, bang. Put some lines in between them. Change it to down, left, and right. Okay. And then we just change the numbers inside our transform.translate. So for the down key, you can see we only need to change this to a negative number. And you just do that by putting a minus in front of speed. That gives it a negative number and it's going to go down. Left, we need to change the x value. So I need to get rid of this 0f on the front. Okay, and I'll add it afterwards. So you can see it's now, that's the x value, that's the y value, that's the z value. Left is going to be a negative speed. Okay, and then right is going to be just that. It's actually the exact same thing we wrote to start with in the update. Okay, save that. Go back to Unity, test out your code. Never write code and expect it's going to work, because chances are it won't. And you can see when we press left, it actually stops the plane moving. But later on, we're going to have the camera moving as well, which is going to force you to keep moving, basically. There we go. So forth. And I can move around the camera with my up, down, left, and right. Move around the level, I should say. Okay, I've already insinuated the last thing we're going to do in the script, and that is just moving the camera as well, because you want them to have to keep moving. It's a side scroller. Keep moving with it. So we're going to do the same thing we did here. This is just movement code, so we're going to put that on the camera. Okay, simplest way to do that, we're going to keep it inside the spaceship script. We could probably make a separate script, put that on the camera, and then the camera will move along. But the reason I put it in this script is because I want, when they die, the camera to stop moving. Okay, and the beauty of that is because when we kill the spaceship, we kill the script as well. And if there's no code moving the camera doesn't move ever. And the benefit of that is they never see the rest of the level. They can't cheat by learning it. Okay, they have to earn it basically. So to move the camera, I am going to highlight this line here. and right click and copy. And before I paste, I'm going to type camera with a capital C, dot main with a little m, put another dot after it, and that's what I'm going to paste. So you can see we've got the same code. It's going to be running at the same speed as well. It's just I'm telling something else to start moving. Because the camera is so important, we can actually refer to it from the spaceship. Okay, that's why it's so good. Now if I go back to my Unity game, press play, this pretty much should be our spaceship done. You can see we can now move everywhere, and then we can hit the goal and win the game. You can see we get destroyed when we hit the goal, but that's actually not a bad thing. We're going to make a goal script which moves us to the next level, and we're going to do that right now. So ship's done. So I'm going to come back down to our assets, make a new script, C# again, calling goal. Double click. Yep, that's fine. Don't care about that. And we're going to add in the same collision thing that we did in our spaceship script. So after void update, add some new lines, go void on collision enter 2D. Okay. Now this is when the ship runs into the goal. Okay. We need to go to the next level. Before we can actually go to the next level, we need to use another part of the Unity engine. That probably sounds a bit weird. Up the top, we're using the Unity engine. We need to import something else before we can actually change levels. So I'm going to make a new line. Go using Unity engine dot scene management with a semicolon on the end. And this here gives us the ability to change levels. Okay, there was an older way to do it, which is not really supported anymore. This is the newer way and the better way to do it, really. So when we collide with the ship, we're going to go scene manager dot load scene. And in brackets, we have to tell it what scene to go to. Okay, that's the hard part. What level are we going to go to? We don't really know, because this script is going to be used on the first level, the second level. If I have a third level, it's going to be used on that as well. So let's put a semicolon there for the moment and try to ignore this error. We're going to add one of those little properties at the top, the variable that we had for the spaceship speed. Add some new lines. Public, it's not going to be a float, it's going to be a string, because strings allow you to do words. And we're going to go next level, just like so. So we haven't put an equals on the end because I don't know what the next level is going to be. But however, I'm going to trust the person using my script, put the next level in those brackets, error goes away. So all this is saying is that whatever we put inside next level is going to be used to load the next level when I run into the goal. That's actually the script done. The rest of the work is in the Unity editor. So let's go back to the editor. Make sure there's no red errors down the bottom here. No. Drag that onto goal. Hit the apply button just to make sure that it goes onto the prefab. And for next level, I'm just going to type level 2. And that's all you have to do, really. Okay, resize this guy. So it's a nice big goal that we can run into. Okay, when we play our game, dodge that. Run into the goal. Now I'm going to get an error down the bottom. It says level 2 could not be loaded because it's not actually in our game. So whatever. I don't care at the moment. So what I probably suggest, this is enough to get the very first level created, okay? Because the second level is what I had the birds in. And this is what I created for my first level. As you can see, I put walls at the top and the bottom so they can't just escape or cheat by going outside the camera. Okay, and then I just add as many collision points as I want. Give them a bit of a challenge or a maze or whatever like that before they can touch the goal at the very end. And you can see that my next level is just set to level 2, which is the next level. So what I suggest you do, save your level that you're working on right now. Please don't change the folder. Just call it level 1. Okay, if I go to assets, you can see there's level 1 there. Make your whole level, set it all up as much as you want, and when you're ready to go the next, or create the next level, I should say, just go File, New Scene, and then save this one as level 2. And to switch between them, you just simply double click on them down here. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So I'm not going to recreate my level inside this. It was simply just me dragging and dropping and resizing and duplicating and moving around. It took a fair while, okay, so let's not do that here. Let's set up the bird, okay? He's not going to take that long. So level 2, I'm going to drag in my spaceship. Whoop, job done. I'm going to drag in the bird on the other side. Bloop. Okay, and we'll drag in a goal after our bird. Okie doke. And I'm going to make this really annoying. I'm going to make this goal go back to level 1. So that way, when I finish level 1, it goes back to, or it goes to level 2, and then when I finish level 2, it goes back to level 1. Just so I can test to make sure that all this stuff works. And when I have a level 3, I'll change it after. So what I want to do now is make a new script. So I'm going to right click, create script, call it bird. Open it up. Okay, and this script is not that long. It's actually the exact same thing as our spaceship moving. Okay, so I'm going to add the speed variable first, so I don't have to change anything. Public float speed equals 2. There's our default value. Okay, and then in void update, we just want to move to the left. So we're just going to move at a negative speed. Transform dot translate negative speed times time dot delta time. 0 on the Y, 0 on the Z. And all that's left to be done is drag this script onto our bird and test out his movement. So let's just drag it onto here. Once again, hit the apply button to make sure it goes on the prefab. Hit play. There's our birdie. He's moving toward us. Okay, that's moving really slow. Oh, because I've got to set that back to 2. Okay, with that done, there's only one little thing I want to change about this. And the biggest problem is if we have multiple birds, they're going to be moving even if you can see them or you can't. So if I duplicate these, whoop, guys, these guys are going to move at the very beginning of the level. And I actually don't want that. I want it to be that when these birds touch the camera, that's when they start moving. Okay, it's a very easy way to do that. So let's go back to the script. We're going to add a quick if statement to it. Just write if, open the brackets, and you put, this is a bit complicated, but get component with these diamonds after it. And you type renderer, put brackets after the diamond. So hopefully that looks okay at the moment. Put a dot after the brackets and put is visible. Okay, I'm going to tab that across as well. So this is just basically saying if the sprite is on the screen, then you can move to the left. Okay, if the actual birds aren't on the screen yet, they're not going to move at all. Okay, so that means I can put them about here and they're not going to start moving at the beginning of the game. It's only when I get to them they start moving. It probably doesn't seem much of a difference when you have a look at it like that. But when you've got a big, long level, okay, you don't want all the birds to speed up. Like if these are faster than this guy, and I can do that by changing the speed of just these 2 guys and not this one. See, he's still set to 2 and these guys are set to 8. That means they don't move until I get to them. Okay? And that way you don't have fast birds overtaking the slow ones that are in the middle of the level and things like that. That's pretty much the end of the tutorial, but there's one last thing that I want to change about each of the levels. Okay? Have I saved these? Yes, I have. I want to set the camera background from blue to black. So if you just click on your main camera in each of your levels, click on the background here, set it to black like so. Okay, yes, I'll save changes. Okay, and one last thing we're going to do, I need to go to my build settings and add both of these levels before our goal script will work properly. So if you go to File, hit Build Settings, click on the Add Open Scenes, probably add the first one first and then add the second level. You see it adds it up in this list. I'm going to open up level 2, click Build Settings, add it there, and that way our open level or our goal script will actually work and go between the 2 different levels. That is it, guys, for our entire tutorial for this one of making a simple little 2D side-scrolling game. Add as many as you can think of, like add different obstacles, add things that shoot, like maybe turrets, maybe you can shoot later on, and things like that. But otherwise, that's the end of the tutorial. Okay, thanks very much for watching. You know how to like, subscribe, and comment down the bottom. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.